Om Shanti. Welcome to this session on body and soul health matters. I'm Neville, and I'm based in the UK. I've been in Gyan for longer than I like to admit, because I feel I should be Karmatit by now, which I'm not. But I have seen enormous benefits in my life and big upliftment in my character through Raj Yoga. I'm just getting the session underway because our three panelists, all of whom are working professionals at the Global Hospital, are actually on their way over, but they've had a long day and they're a little bit delayed from the hospital, so they'll all be arriving shortly. It was also thought that we should get straight underway because Daddy Janki is going to join us a little later on as well. She's going to be conducting meditation, probably from about 7:20, 7:30, something like that. The three panelists who are coming, I think I'll probably best say a few words about them now so that we can get straight into drawing on their expertise when they arrive. Dr. Pratap Midha, the medical superintendent of the Global Hospital, long-term Raj Yogi, a hugely courageous soul who has sailed through so many challenges in starting up from scratch a new hospital on a mountaintop. Really a stable hand on the ship of the Global Hospital from the beginning. We've also got Dr. Nikhil Patel, consultant psychiatrist at the Global Hospital, and again a long-term yogi, and Dr. Sunita, who's the nutritionist there. So between the three of them, we really do have a tremendous resource, both in terms of yoga power and experience of the health field as health professionals. My own background and interest in this field goes back a long way. My work was as a journalist for 30 years in newspapers in England. And quite early on in my career, I specialized in health and medicine and found it a fascinating field, which actually led me to Raj Yoga, because I started out reporting on medicine and health with the conventional materialistic view that the body is the place where illness comes, and really not giving that much consideration to the mind. But quite quickly learned through full-time studying the medical issues the importance of the mind in both contributing to our health and in contributing to our ill health. But one of the things that I might share while we're waiting for our panelists is that despite the connection between, you could say, waste thoughts, troubled thoughts, and the burden on the body that can lead to ill health, there's no question of any kind of guilt or shame being associated with ill health. At least there shouldn't be. Our seniors have had more than their fair share of ill health. And I think one reason is that the path of Raja Yoga is a very challenging one that requires a lot of courage. And here come our three courageous panelists. Not at all. No, I explained that you've been working, and it's great that the team is here. So Dr. Pratap, Dr. Nikhil, and Dr. Sunita. I'll just give you a minute to acclimatize to our lovely group. and welcome, and thank you for being with us. I've explained something of your backgrounds, that you have a wealth of yogic as well as medical and health experience, and so we're looking forward to drawing on your experiences. I thought as an opening question that I'd invite you to share with us, perhaps if you've observed some particular health issues that are especially relevant to the BK journey. I wonder if, do you know what I mean? That is there anything that you know, that certain pitfalls along the way that are especially associated with this path of purification through Raja Yoga? Perhaps I could ask you to start, Dr. Pratap.
Om Shanti. We all can speak from our experience. Basically, becoming Baba's child involves a lot of changes in our personal lives. It could mean in our eating habits, in our sleeping pattern, and also our relationship with others. I know of my early days when I was in the medical school, I was so skeptical, Baba says that we need to maintain personal hygiene, we need to have our discipline. Sometimes if someone would come and sit on my bed, I would change the bed sheet. That used to be, I was living in the hostel then. And even food habits were so difficult when you are in hostel living in a community. But then this change comes naturally within us. We get acclimatized, we get adjusted to our sleeping habits, because most of the people sleep very late and they get up late. But we have the habit that we have our practice of Amrit Vela. And if you are sharing room with a couple of others in the hostel, what happens? If you get up early in the morning, it is a cause of disturbance for them. And if you sleep early, you cannot sleep early because the others are up. So these kind of difficulties do come when you are living in a group or living in a large group like what I was after coming to Baba in the medical school hostel. But more or less, I personally feel what I find, my personal experience of interaction with most of the BK sisters and brothers, I feel we need to strike a balance. Some people think that disease is a kind of which can be managed with just with power from Baba or with yoga. Yes, meditation and yoga does help us in facing with such sudden events like some sudden sickness, some chronic illness. But then we need to consult the expert. We need to take the advice of the people who are experienced in managing these kind of situations. So in a way, we neither get obsessed with our physical symptoms nor take them very lightly. We need to strike a balance that if there's something happening in our physical symptoms, we need to pay attention to it. Because sometimes, as like they say, a stitch in time saves nine. You need to know what is happening. And this is something which even the psychologists have studied. We have Dr. Nikhil with us. He would agree with me that, ignoring certain things doesn't solve. You need to pay attention to them. And then if you need help, you need to express the need for help also. That's very important. And as BKs, we need to understand that we have the same kind of physical structure which every one of others has in this iron age. It's not that by becoming, belonging to Baba, our physical structure also changes. Our physical constitution remains the same. So we experience the same kind of illnesses, the same kind of difficulties in our day-to-day living. So we need to be aware of that. So in a sense, we need to take care of our physical, this chariot, very well, because this is very valuable for us. That's what Baba says. We need to take care of our proper sleep, proper nutrition, and if we have some physical distress or pain, we need to seek guidance for that also. We cannot ignore it.
Thank you. That's a great overview. And Sunita Ben, could you comment on this one from the nutritional point of view?
Om Shanti. As far as my experience goes, many of the brothers and sisters who come to me with a problem, it is basically they have to change their eating habits. Earlier maybe they were taking a different kind of a diet, and then in foreign land normally the dietitians, what advice they give is based normally on a non-vegetarian kind of a diet. And many brothers and sisters come to me saying that their protein needs or their need for iron is not being properly met. That is what they are, normally told. But it's not that, because basically what I tell them is that we should all understand that every organism on this planet derives its nutrition from plants. Only green plants have the capacity to manufacture food with the help of sunlight and simple substances. And rest, every living organism on this earth, in this universe, depends on plants. So nobody should ever believe that vegetarian food will not give them sufficient nutrients or sufficient protein, vitamins, and especially iron and protein they are worried about. Everything is available in the plant kingdom. And second thing that I observe is many people say that they gain weight or their blood cholesterol and lipid levels rise. But we have to, it's not that we are eating wrong, we are not only eating wrongly, but the timings have also to be maintained. So it is very important not only to see what we are eating, but when and how. The combination also matters. What we are combining, what foods we are combining. So these are the two main issues that normally have to be addressed. Thank you.
Do you see some BKs with nutritional deficiency? And if so, what steps can you offer to help them out?
It's basically not deficiency, but most of the time the BKs that come to me have hyperlipidemias or diabetes. Hyperlipidemias means their blood triglyceride and cholesterol levels have risen due to the eating habits. Maybe too much of fried foods or refined foods are being taken on a regular basis. Too many sweets are being consumed, which contain plenty of fat and sugar together. So whatever, I'm not saying that we don't eat toli, but we can be judicious in choosing the kind of toli we are eating, because normally whenever I tell that too much sweets are not to be taken, it is taken that we don't have to take toli, but we can make a judicious choice of the toli. We can have fruits, we can have dry fruits for toli. Such things will not raise the blood sugar levels, because many BKs I've seen, they have very raised blood sugar levels and also blood cholesterol and triglyceride levels, which lead to obesity, which may contribute to the weight gain. So, and secondly, the timings we have to, because we are getting up quite early, so we have to maintain timings. It is really good because getting up early means eating early, and sleeping early means eating early in the evening as well. So our body clock says, according to the scientific the body clock says that after 8 o'clock, if anything is eaten, it is not assimilated by the body, it is not properly utilized by the body. So it is better to eat before 8, but we have to maintain timings. We have to eat 3 main meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner. Even if we have gained weight, we should not skip meals, because skipping meals is not going to help. in reducing the weight. We have to eat the proper kind of food. Like I said, refined food we have to avoid. We have to avoid sugars and fats as far as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I expect some of you may have some specific questions, and if we don't cover them in this general panel discussion, then please hold them in mind, and we will have an opportunity for questions later. We've got a mic at the front here where we can do that. I'd had word that Daddy Janki was going to be joining us later, but we're okay for time because she'll probably be coming at about 7:30. Dr. Nikhil, from the mental health point of view, have you seen some particular health issues that arise on the BK journey?
Om Shanti, and a very good evening. It's a very good question to answer to. No human being in this world is immune to stress and psychiatric illnesses, including BKs. There are many causes of it. See, the clientele that I get, the patient population that I get, are not only BKs, but they are also non-BKs. And if I give you an overview of what is the prevalence of the psychiatric illnesses in BKs as compared to the non-BKs, say about 2/3 of my patient clientele is non-BKs and 1/3 BKs. So we do have to accept that we do have stress at some point of time, and if it exceeds certain limits, it requires consultation, at least consultation. If it exceeds some other limits, then of course it amounts to an illness, psychiatric illness, and it needs to be tackled there and then. Because every illness, whether it's a physical illness or a psychiatric illness, leads to many complications. I have seen some of the BK patients, I don't want to name them, from top to down in the hierarchy, who come to me for consultation, who have gross diagnosable psychiatric illness, and that is the root cause of other problems, interpersonal problems, as well as problems in the professional, occupational, social, and personal domain. So one has to be aware of our own psyche. Although psyche, mind, is the faculty of soul, but it is intimately related with brain. And we have the most tamopradhan. We have inherited the most tamopradhan brain in this last 84th body, which has got its own nature. Many of us have inherited certain amount of genes which are abnormal. You may be aware of it. About 1% of genes that we have, 0.1% of genes, rather 0.1%, about 400 genes that we have, everybody, including Brahmins, have abnormal genes. Some of them may be the genes of schizophrenia, some of them may be the genes of depression, some of them may be the genes of bipolar disorder, manic depressive psychosis, and so on and so forth. Some may have the genes of diabetes, some have the genes of hypertension as well. You aren't aware of your genes, what you have inherited, until and unless we have gene mapping, which is coming into practice in future. What I mean to say, everybody, including BKs, is susceptible to develop any psychiatric illness at any point of time without any precipitating factor. Mind well. There is a notion, probably a myth, that unless and until you are exposed to stress, you don't develop illness. It's a myth. Anybody can suffer, even the Prime Minister or the President or the Queen Elizabeth, the happiest man or woman in the world, can develop any illness at any point of time without any precipitating stress or stressor. So we have to be aware that we are prone to develop illnesses, and there are certain signs and symptoms of illnesses. Many of you have already gone to psychiatrists in the Western world, especially there is no taboo or stigma attached to psychiatrist. Somebody who has just headache also goes to the psychiatrist and consult the psychiatrist. BKs do have stigma. We, BKs, Brahmins, do carry stigma to consult a psychiatrist. Going to a psychiatrist's clinic does not mean that you will be labeled crazy, quote unquote. Take it from me, normal people also come to us, and then we have to tell them you don't require any treatment. There are certain other normal people also come to us who want to become more normal.
They want to be sure that they are normal.
They want to develop their personality. So not necessarily crazy people come to us. It's a very unfortunate stigma that Brahmins carry with them to consult a psychiatrist.
You know, I think, do carry on, but I think it's sometimes related to this idea that Baba is my psychiatrist, you know. This is sometimes said something like that, yes.
Of course, he is the psychiatrist, but he is not the psychiatrist of a body or brain. You see, you have to understand the importance of the hardware and the software of the computer. Now, if Baba is the psychiatrist of everybody, and if he treats illnesses of everybody, then there is no need of psychiatrists. In fact, he would have removed all the psychiatric illnesses from the world. I very much wish that there are no psychiatrists in the world. Baba should take care of them. But it is not even in his hands. Because we have some hereditary illnesses which run in the families, and one may suffer from any point of time in their lifetime. Different psychiatric illnesses, very minor to minor, major, very severe, you know. There's a grade or hierarchy of severity of psychiatric illnesses. Even sleep disorders. Just now we were discussing about sleep, requirement of sleep. There are about 50 different illnesses related to only sleep. How many of you are aware of it? Somebody goes to sleep very late, maybe 2 hours later than the usual time of going to bed, doesn't get sleep. There are many people who go to bed, lie down on bed, but they don't fall asleep until 2 hours of tossing in the bed here and there. And it remains for a couple of weeks. There are some people who sleep in time, fall asleep in time, but they go on waking up in between. There are some people who wake up very early in the morning, even before Amrit Vela, and then they don't fall asleep again. You know, different kind of sleep-related illnesses. There are some people who sleep whole night, but then their sleep is not refreshing, sound one. They go on dreaming, having thoughts whole night, you know. So when they wake up in the morning, they feel as if they haven't gone to sleep. They haven't slept. There are certain people who have different frightening dreams every day, almost every day, occurring every day, nightmares. There are certain people who speak during sleep, talk during sleep. There are certain people who walk during sleep. Get up, go back to the bed.
Very unpopular here in Madhuban if you're sharing a room with others.
What I'm trying to say, that these are different psychiatric illnesses, which we are not aware of. There are certain children who have habit of bedwetting during sleep. There are certain people who have a habit of snoring. It's an illness, mind well, it's a sleep disorder. There are certain people whose respiration stops during sleep for about 20 seconds, and it happens many times during night. Sleep apnea. This is known as sleep apnea, and this is the cause of death during sleep. So one has to be aware of all these illnesses.
And so what, in a nutshell, you're saying that actually the major occupational hazard, so to speak, of being a BK could be that you would be reluctant to take medical help, especially psychiatric help. This would be the biggest problem in a sense, so that the problem could grow, whereas the help might have been available that would remove the problem.
That's true. You see, I always give some tips to keep oneself mentally healthy. I very much wish that no patient should come to me to have consultation and treatment. And that's why there are certain points to remember, which would be of use to you also. How to keep oneself mentally healthy all the time, so that you don't require to consult a psychiatrist, especially the BKs, As Dr. Pratap mentioned just now, one has to have a good balance of your sleep, your rest, your diet, and your exercise. It's a kind of a triad, Rest, exercise, diet. If any of these three things is disturbed, then you are likely to have stress. Sleep is very important. Sleep varies according to the age. Although Baba many times says in the Murli that children do wake up late at night, hours together, and do remember me. Somebody who has tried it may share some experience later on. Mind well, sleep requirement of an individual has to be fulfilled, has to be met with. Average, as Baba says, 8 hours is a sleep, plus or minus 2 hours. And it varies according to age. If you compromise your requirement of sleep, say for example, today there is a program or there is some kind of seva, service, and you don't sleep in the afternoon. You didn't have the nap in the afternoon. So there is 1 or 2 hours of sleep deficit in your daily routine. And if you don't make it by oversleeping at night time or the next day in the afternoon, then it is likely to affect your mental health. Similarly, Sister Sunita was telling about diet, very important. If you don't have lunch today, how many of you didn't have lunch today? Be honest. Lunch? No lunch today? During daytime, there are about 10 souls who haven't fed petrol into their cars. If you don't eat for about 5 to 6 hours of time, there is low blood sugar, there is low salt, there is some deficiency of electrolytes in the body, which also causes stress, which also causes depression, which also causes irritability. And we label it Maya. Mind well, the solution, the answer lies in eating. Your body is like a car. You have to fuel the car very regularly and very meticulously. And if you don't do that, you are likely to have stress. What I'm trying to say, one has to have a very good balance of rest, diet, and exercise. If you have done a lot of exercise or over-exertion in a day, then you need more rest, you need an extra hour of sleep on that particular day. And if you still sleep less the next day, you will be disturbed. You won't enjoy yoga.
Thank you very much. Yes, please do.
See, Dr. Nikhil might appear quite a bit scaring you, but being a BK has many advantages. You need to be aware of that. Because of our Baba's knowledge and philosophy which we have, particularly being soul conscious, the concept of trauma, we can overcome many of situations very peacefully. So it's a plus point, and we can manage I would say from personal experience, we can manage skipping a meal or even having less sleep without any difficulty, because our threshold goes up. Like in an ordinary way, people's threshold to pain is very low. Their threshold of deprivation of something is very low. They get disturbed fast, but our threshold is quite high. So, but we need to be conscious at the same time that we cannot take it easy. We need to be taking care of our physical health as well as spiritual health. We need to strike a balance.
Yes, this message of balance is a really valuable one. I wonder if you could tell us, Dr. Pratap, what are the warning signs that you might see when someone's pushing themselves too far? And maybe also, what are the signs if someone is getting in a bit of a rut, if they're not pushing themselves? Because Baba does urge us to give our bones in service. You know, we know that he wants to push us hard, because then we learn things deep about the soul that might just otherwise never get dealt with otherwise if we just had a comfortable time. But on the other hand, we don't want to compromise our health, mental or otherwise, by pushing ourselves too hard. So what are the signs to give you an indication that you're maintaining that balance?
Well, Dr. Nikhil has really brought out some of the points. You know, basically, even in our physical symptoms, they first start, physical illness also starts affecting our mental health first. You know, if you have an upset stomach, you will not be able to concentrate. If you haven't had the sleep, you might feel drowsy in the class. And the other thing is, if you haven't eaten properly, you may be feeling tired all the time. So all these simple things, these are simple signs, but we need to be aware. Headache doesn't happen to us normally, but the day I have headache, I know probably I had some amount of stress and which I need to take care. Even sometimes the stiff neck could be a symptom of overwork. And basic issue is that if we have a set routine, you know, suppose we know ourselves well that if we get up at 4 o'clock or 3:30, we need to have half an hour rest during the afternoon, which is what I does. And the day I miss that half an hour sleep or 45-minute sleep, I start feeling the bells start ringing in my head at about 9 o'clock that I need to take more rest. So we know ourselves much better than others know us. So what I personally feel, each one of us has to know what are his signs of distress or pain. Minute the pain does appear in a gross form, pain might appear in the subtle form, and we can always know it because we know ourselves very well. So issue is that we need to have a balanced, right kind of daily routine which we are able to follow more or less. There can be exceptions. We need not be concerned about that. While traveling, we can have an exception. While doing some special programs, we can have an exception. But on an average, in a normal routine, we know that how much rest we require, how much walk we need to have every day, and how much food we need. So that we all know very well, and we can very well take care of ourselves. I am sure as BKs we are much, much conscious of our own self than what others are. Others would be ignoring themselves or maybe closing their eyes to what is happening in them. I've seen many people who are learned, who are educated, they're having heart problem and they feel it is because of the stomach upset. And then they'll end up in the hospital in a kind of situation which sometimes is irreversible. So we need to know, there's so much appears in the literature, what are the signs of heart, what are the signs of having some unknown illness. So we need to be reading a lot of magazines and television programs and radio interviews keep appearing. More and more people are becoming aware, because once we are aware, we can take steps. As I said, for a stitch in time saves 9, early diagnosis and early management, we can always do. As BKs, I feel we are in a much advantageous position, because in any center you would have someone who's from the health area, so you can always share with them if there's anything. You may not be able to find time to go and consult your GP, but you can always share with someone who's from the health area in your center. That can also give you a quick help. So I personally feel we need to be aware of what is happening around us, what are the diseases prevalent in your area. When you're traveling somewhere, you should be aware that what are the precautions you need to take, what are the kind of food which would suit you the best, and that we need all to be aware. Sometimes when we remain silent, we accept what is given to us, it may not be useful to us.
I was sharing with the gathering earlier before you arrived that you in particular have had a very courageous journey in starting up the Global Hospital from nothing. It's a big thing up on a mountaintop, and in association, not even in a conventional sense, but in association with a spiritual organization with all those expectations attached to that. Have you had a period during this last 12, whatever it is, years of the 14, is it now?
15 years.
15 years, amazing. Have there been times when you've had to take extra special care of your own health? Or have you sailed through it really quite comfortably?
Well, I've been very fortunate. Except for minor episodes, I have been able to keep good health. And it is because maybe here after coming to Mount Abu, it has been quite a plus for me, much to my benefit. Because when I was in my Lokik job, that was quite demanding. Here probably the things have been very easy for me. I am able to have my regular walk both in the morning and evening, have my right kind of diet which is available to us, and also sleep well. And I haven't had any, practically sometimes you do feel the lack of sleep, because if you miss your afternoon rest, which happens quite frequently. Otherwise, I've been keeping well, except for small episodes of backache or something which has bothered me. I have been keeping good health.
Well, you're a very good example, which Baba should have there too. Sunita Ben, sometimes I know from my own experience, I may, if I'm feeling a bit low in some way, if my stage has been neglected, then I may eat more than is good for me, just for the comfort purpose. What's your advice if we find ourselves doing that?
Dr. Nikhil would be able to help.
You may answer, then
It happens many a times that we tend to eat more, and when normally on those during those times when we want to eat something, it's basically something sweet, some chocolatey things, which are again contributing to extra calories which we don't burn up easily. So at times when we really want to eat something, it's okay to eat chocolates once in a while, but it would be a good advice to eat fruits, salads, things like that, which would not add to calories but give satisfaction otherwise, would be more satisfying as compared to cakes and chocolates, which we normally tend to eat.
Thank you. Dr. Nikhil?
Yeah, it's a universal problem. It's an omnipresent problem. Of course, as you have already mentioned, the root cause is stress. When you are tense, when you are depressed, you are anxious, you tend to overeat. Or there are certain people who don't eat at all, or who have less appetite during stress. Now, both the extremes are harmful for health. If you are normal weight, and if you haven't eaten for last 5 hours, then you can go for chocolate. Or if you have done overexertion and depressed or under stress, you can afford to go for chocolate. If you have eaten very well say for example your lunch, and now you are stressed and feeling very hungry, then you go for something which has got less calorie value. As she said, rightly said, go for vegetables, salads, or fruits. If you're underweight, mind well, and if you're feeling hungry, you can go for anything. Okay? So you have to be master of your own health status, and accordingly you can go.
I'll add a point here. Dr. Nikhil has, allowed chocolates, but even if we are underweight or we are, haven't eaten for a long period of time, eating chocolates would be not a very good choice at that time. Why? Because suddenly chocolates would raise the blood sugar level to a very high level suddenly. Okay, if we haven't eaten anything, then first we should eat something that is, that would.
It depends upon the size of the chocolate also.
I wonder if Dr. Pratap, and maybe Dr. Nikhil also, if you could comment on something that Daddy Janki often brings up, which is the power of blessings in sustaining good health. I've never quite grasped this. Daddy sometimes says that she's, she's found the strength to overcome the many illnesses that she's had through a combination of help from Baba, medicines, and the power of the good wishes and blessings that she receives from the family and from the world. What's the mechanism involved here, and how can we increase our the support for our health in that way?
Well, this is now a recognized fact that spirituality, or having faith in God, or having some kind of prayers, does add to our years. It has been now studied very well that people who have some kind of spiritual element in their lives, they live longer. Maybe because they stay away from addictions, they are able to take care of themselves properly, and then probably they are able to, they experience less stress. People have even studied that values such as honesty, truthfulness, patience, helping others, they all boost up our immune system. So nothing which is in contradiction with good living would help you, but something which is positive, which is promoting peace, would also bring peace within our physical system. People have even come out, there's one particular book which I came across, which is known as Immune Powered Personality. They bring out some kind of personality factors which are more like having some values in our life, like helping others, having good network of friends and well-wishers, like which each one of us has, the blessings which we receive by doing good to others, by helping them, they are all promoting our immune system, our Department of Defense against illnesses and viruses. It has been observed that people who remain depressed, who are keeping low, they catch up viral illnesses much more faster than the normal people. Even tuberculosis, which is a disease which is basically a balance of immunity and our disease. It has been seen that the tuberculosis can lie dormant for years in your system, but when you are passing through stress or when you are depressed, it can crop up suddenly. So it is now a recorded, well-established fact that positivity, having good network of friends, having someone with whom you can share some maybe traumatic feelings, maybe something which you are keeping repressed, that kind of feelings if you share with a friend or with your mother or your father, you feel you are able to boost up your immune system. So it's not something which is, I would say, which is only available to Dadi Janki, but it is available to each one of us. Each one of us, if he has that positive personality traits, staying happy, staying cheerful, helping others, leading an honest life, being truthful all the time, would definitely have a strong immune system.
Thank you. Dr. Nikhil.
Yeah, I would just add, there's one phenomenon which many of us are aware of. It's known as altruism, selfless service. Now, if you see dadis, all dadis, including Dadi Janki, you don't find even a trace of any selfish motive behind what she is doing. It's all selfless positivity, It's the state of mind of extreme positivity all the time, during all situations, always at the giving end, always helping, Now, this selfless attitude is the one which promotes good health, whether it's physical health or mental health. If you're all the time happy, positive, always on the giver side, without any selfish motive. Of course, there are some people who give with some selfish motive, but it doesn't help to promote your health. So this also helps quite a lot.
Just last question before opening to everybody. In the light of what you've both just mentioned about this connection between a good life and good health, the question does arise in our minds sometimes. Okay, we see this extraordinary example of Daddy, and Brahma Baba himself lived to a very ripe old age. But we've other examples of seniors who've left the body, in some instances like Mama, really young. What's going on when a soul has such an elevated part, but nevertheless some illness takes them out? Do we just say it's drama, or have you any thoughts about what's involved in that?
It's a very difficult question to answer. Even I get the dilemma. Why should Jagdish Bhai would have gone through all that illness? It's a very difficult question to it's the mystery, what Baba says, the mystery of karmic philosophy is such deep that we are at a loss to understand that. So karmic philosophy is something which can explain that. Otherwise, we would say drama, and everyone has a destined role to play. I don't know whether we have seniors sitting with you. They can answer this question better, I think. Dr. Nirmala and Chakradhari Ben.
May I add something?
Yes, sure.
See, medical point of view, as I just mentioned, that this particular body that we have in this 84th birth is the most tamopradhan one. And we aren't aware of our own abnormal genes that we have inherited from our parents. In Mama's case, say for example, now she died of carcinoma breast. Jagdish Bhai died of carcinoma liver. We aren't sure what genetic makeup genetic constitution they had in this particular birth. Moreover, Jagdish Bhai had not a very balanced daily routine. Even Baba gave a command after he passed away, when Baba sent a message through trans messenger, that child didn't care about his physical health. Chakradhari Ben knows about that. Because he used to skip his meals many times. He used to get over involved in seva. Because, you are bound to do seva, of course, but you have to do service of your own self, keeping a balance, taking care of your body, health, and do service. It makes a sense. It brings more service to the others if you take care of your health.
Well, there's a question. Those were the times which were difficult time for the yajna, I must say. I have seen the yajna grow. We had very little resources, very few Brahmins, and everyone had to put in his bit. Everyone had to work hard. We didn't have all that comforts. Sometimes you didn't have proper place to sleep, proper place to take rest. So those were the difficult times. We would say the drama was like that. The yajna was just coming up. And those were foundation years. And we are lucky that because of our seniors, which we have such strong family and such good infrastructure now, that we are having the benefit of inheritance in this life only. So we should be thankful to them.
So, Sunita Ben, do you have a thought on this subject?
No, I was just thinking that, like Nikhil Bhai said, that we should have a balance because there are three things. First, if we have good health, that means we'll be able to serve better. Okay. Secondly, if we do not have good health, then not only we will not be able to serve, but we'll need somebody to serve us. So that way again we are, building up an account, karmic account. And thirdly, the yajna has to contribute to our, getting better if we are surrender sisters and like that. So that way again we are, having an account. So it is better then to take care of one's health. Prevention is always better than cure.
Thank you very much to our panelists. They've really set out some very interesting perspectives, information, experience. And now it's time, if you'd like to come and ask some questions, either of one or all, please, this is the opportunity.
This is a question to Dr. Sunita. I know that there are many our double foreigners, brothers and sisters, who do not know, what should be mixed up with what, what kind of food to be eaten exactly, And so whatever comes in their way, they will keep on eating that for a week or so on and so on. So if you can just guide, what should be mixed up with this and that. And this is one thing. And another thing is you said something like, what is that word? Refined food, if you can explain what you mean by that.
Okay. First, I'll explain refined food. Refined food is any food that is like fast food, easy to eat. Anything that is easy to eat is difficult for the body to digest. For example, white flour, it's a refined food because white flour is made from wheat. And the wheat has two parts, the outer covering and the inner germ. When it is ground, the wheat is ground, we get the flour. From that flour, if it is sieved, the outer covering, that is removed and only a refined flour is left. From that, most of the things like pastas, noodles, breads, and pizzas, all these things are made from white flour. Cakes, biscuits, cookies, everything is made from. And then another example of refined food is sugar. So both these have calories but nothing else. They are not contributing to any other nutrient. So they are not very good for our healthy lifestyle. So it is always better to have whole meal bread, a pasta made from whole wheat. So, so that we not only get the fiber from it, we get many of the nutrients go away with the discarded covering. The food made out of refined flour, white flour, self-raising flour, we call it, we may feel that it's much tastier because it is not coarse in texture when we eat. It's easy to chew, but it is not very healthy for the body to digest. It is not very easy for the body to digest it because we have discarded many vitamins and minerals with the skin that has been removed. Same is with the fruits when we remove the skin and all. So it is always better to eat fruits which can be eaten with the peel, like apples and sapota, chiku we call it. These fruits should be eaten with the peel. Whenever possible, the fruits should be eaten with the peel. Now for the other question, that was, sorry?
It was, Sudha Ben was asking about what goes with what,
yeah. Okay.
Combining.
Actually, I'll tell you, there are 5 main food groups that are to be considered when we consider combination. First is cereals. Cereals are anything like rice made from wheat flour, and potato, roots, and any root vegetables. They come under cereal, which are the staple foods, basic food from which we prepare our meals. Then second is fruits and vegetables. All kinds of fruits and vegetables green leafy vegetables, then all the gourds, the green gourd and the bitter gourd and the long gourd, all those come under this. And then third is pulses and legumes, all kinds of dals. Indians use dals, but in foreign countries we use legumes, beans and peas and things like that. All those come under this third category. Fourth is milk and milk products. All the things like cheese and curds that ice cream is again a refined food. So all these come under milk and milk products. And the fifth is fats and sugars. Fats and sugars are normally added, and salt also can be taken in this fifth category. These are normally added to add taste, to enhance the taste of any food. Okay, so if we divide our meal in our daily routine into 3 main meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner, plus 2 extra meals in betweens. So mainly during these 3 main meals, we should be consuming cereals is a must during these 3 main meals. 1 or 2 serving of cereals is a must, and with that vegetables on all 3 meals, and legumes and pulses can be added for breakfast and lunch because they are a little difficult to digest, they take longer to digest. So it is better to take legumes, beans, peas and all those things, or sprouts even, if we sprout the legumes. So it is better to take them during breakfast and lunchtime, and dinner should be light, it should be cereal and vegetables, and fruits should be taken in between. As far as milk and milk products are concerned, it is better to take milk at night and as yogurt or curd during the daytime. Okay?
Thank you. Wonderful answer. Next question. Please come. And if, in fact, it would probably be a good idea if we have 1 or 2 questioners lined up. As the previous question is being answered, if you've got a question to ask, come near the front and then you're ready to come forward.
Om Shanti, I'm Vali from South Africa. I don't know whether this is one that could be asked here, but it's one of the things that we're probably going to be busy with. And that's nurse training programs. My question would be to the panel, so many questions are being asked about how we would understand certain concepts in nursing science, in teaching nursing students. And I just wondered if we could get the understanding and some guidance from our very elevated souls here, and with their vast experience, on some of the issues that I have been asked, especially by students. What would the core values, spiritual values be, if we had to develop ethos and the practice of nursing, like truth and things like that?
Patapai, could you come back on that one? Is that emerging in your own nurse training program?
Well, its basic issue is if you have chosen a profession, if someone is in nursing profession, I would feel the most important core values for that person should be compassion and care. These are the 2 issues which are involved in nursing. Because if we have concern for others, if we can feel the pain of others, we can vibe with that person, then we can serve them better. And the other thing is also important, that we need to be honest with the patients. We need to protect the privacy of the patient. Because there are many patients who would come and share so many things with us. So we need to be very careful when we are listening to the patients. We need to keep to the confidentiality. I personally feel to be a nurse is a great responsibility, and as well as a great opportunity to serve people. So both competence and compassion both need to be combined, blended together.
Thank you. And the other part of the question would be, many times we're asked our understanding of the following concepts, and one of them would be, especially working in the intensive care unit for those students, euthanasia. What would be our approach? What would also be our attitude and the guidance that we would impart in terms of Baba's knowledge to those students?
I have a feeling that that might be better answered one-on-one rather than
All
in
right.
this particular topic, if you don't mind.
Or I think we will leave that. There's a whole lot of them.
Thank you. And actually, just wanted to...
You can visit us.
You can visit Dr. Pratap at the hospital and give some help on that one. Actually, just in the light of the sister's question, probably the answer would be similar, but how can, as BKs, how can we best help one another, just in a nutshell, when someone's ill? Would the same principles apply that I think sometimes we might get messed up by our understandings of karma or these sort of things and not apply the same sort of responses to someone who's ill that we would with a non-BK.
Well, as BKs, we are much more equipped to take care of each other. I would say we understand the karma philosophy, but we also understand at the same time that everyone in time of distress would welcome help. And I personally feel if I come to know someone is not keeping well, in India it is a practice that you would go there, offer the help, but sometimes you become little over also. In the Western way of life, we probably feel more detached. So it has to be balanced. We need to take care of each other because sickness is something in which some people feel divested of their powers. So you need to empower them with loving smile and a pat on the back. These kind of things support a patient very well. I would share with you an experience. I was very young doctor. I was hardly 26 or 27, and one of my friends who was in his 50s, his mother passed away, and I went to him. I couldn't express, I couldn't speak a word, but we just sat in peace, and later on he shared with me that was the best experience which he had, sitting with me only, not speaking any word. So many times if we just go and sit with the person and we just tell him that you are available to him, that is also very important.
That's beautiful, thank you. Next question.
Good evening. My name is Brent Hurd. I'm from Washington, D.C. We've talked a bit about tonight the chance to boost our immune systems. What about when the immune system is overactive, when you get into autoimmune diseases? Is that something that you see often in your practice? And if so, what are some of the maybe recommendations you have to prevent autoimmune responses?
Well, there are many situations which are quite complex, like even cancer is also known to be one of the autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis. There are no explanations for these. But I'm sure with following a healthy lifestyle, a lifestyle which is relatively stress-free, and when we are able to lead a happy state of mind, that would help us in coping up with these diseases. We may not be able to really get rid of the illness. I have come across many of the studies where particularly in rheumatoid arthritis and bronchial asthma, where you find that these are diseases which you need to keep on taking painkillers or antihistaminics your lifetime. These patients, when they were explained about their illnesses and when they started actively participating in their care, the diseases became much less in severity. So it's basically not passively receiving the help, but actively involving yourself in your care, which would make a lot of difference. And meditation as such, because it calms down our system. You know, basically what happens in autoimmune system is our immune system becomes hyperactive. So meditation should calm down our sympathetic and parasympathetic system, which is only a, I would say, a hypothesis. It needs to be studied well. And we haven't done any studies in these patients like with rheumatoid arthritis or ulcerative colitis, but it has been seen that some kind of rest, some kind of relaxation exercises does help many patients.
Thank you. Manubai.
This is a question to Dr. Sunita in particular. The lifestyle in the West is such that there is not a fast food always, it's a fast life. And people cook food for 2-3 days, and they shove it into the fridge. What do you think is the effect of this leftover food on the health?
In connection to this same question, what I know about many of the students, they get up early in the morning and they have to come to the class, and the whole day they are on work and they're hardly able to bring something with them to eat. And so they buy certain things and just put hot water in that, and probably, of course, it is not a nutrient, good, nourishing food. So what practical recommendations you would give to them so that they can maintain it?
Yes, you are right. With the fast life, people are able to devote less time to cooking, which is the main reason why people are earning, I think. But putting food into the fridge means we are losing important nutrients while it is still in the freezer. And also, once we take it out and thaw it and boil it or steam it or reheat it, so we definitely lose many nutrients during that time. Also, sometimes there is growth of microorganisms during this period when it is being thawed, that means brought out of the freezer, kept for some times before it can be reheated or something. It is actually better to eat fresh food. But because we cannot do that always, there are certain foods which can be kept and eaten. Processed food, basically, like cheese is one thing, tofu, some soya products, that can be kept immune. But milk products otherwise should not be. Anything containing milk should not be kept for a longer time. As far as vegetables are concerned, they definitely lose their minerals once they are prepared and kept in the freezer. So it is always better, maybe we can just steam them or boil them for a few minutes rather than overcooking them, frying them, or making curry or this or that. Basic preparations can be done and kept, like tomato paste can be made, and then fresh vegetables can be added immediately, and then the food made like that. Secondly, as you asked that, they have no time at all. So like sprouts, once in a week they can make, and they can use them. What they can do is make for 3 days. And then after 3 days, they can make that again. Within 3 days, the sprouts would grow. So that would be as good as fresh for them. Then secondly, fruits and vegetables can be eaten fresh and, raw as far as possible. Then there are certain bran foods like bread, which is with bran. That can be kept for a longer time without losing its nutrient content. So those are the things that should be eaten more often as compared to tinned and packaged foods, which we don't know how they have been packaged, or after heating and all, whether they are really containing as many nutrients as they should be giving, because processing definitely is going to destroy many nutrients in them. Okay.
Thank you. Some very good tips there. And it's just something I'd like to add from my own experience, actually, that in our love for Baba and the systems of the BK life, we can sometimes be so rigid about it that we can do ourselves more harm than good.
Yes.
For example, I remember, because I was told that it's good not to eat food prepared elsewhere, like in a canteen or a restaurant. And so to begin with, when I was in my newspaper job, sometimes it would be very long hours. You know, it might be the end of the week, it was a 14-hour day sometimes, and I'd take some sandwiches and bits and pieces, but I'd need more than that. And Daddy told me once when I spoke about this, and of course it's individual matter, but she told me once, really, it's fine if you go to the canteen, take the, you know, whatever you can find there, boiled vegetables, simple rice things, not things that have had a lot of preparation, because there the consciousness might have an effect on you, but otherwise to take simple boiled foods and things like that, eating them out, salads, things like that, it's fine. And obviously, you know, it's a question of balance too.
I remember one of the Murlis, Baba also said, if you have to, I mean for the sustenance, if you have to, in remembrance, if you eat, it is not going to be harmful.
Sonia.
I'm Sonia, and this is a question for the psychiatrist, Nikhil. People with psychiatric illnesses who take medication, you often hear them saying that it affects their feeling of themselves. They feel a little bit distant from others and the world, and they look like they can't feel as much as they used to. It's like it's sort of, I don't know what you call it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I wonder then, do you have any experience with BKs taking psychiatric medications, how they affect their meditation, and if you have an experience of that, if they have the same feeling there and their contact with Baba and the BK family and things?
It's a good question to answer. Many of the psychiatric medications that normally are prescribed by the psychiatrists worldwide have different effect, you know. There are some tablets which reduces aggression. There are some tablets which increases sleep. There are some tablets which decrease sleep and make you more alert. It depends upon the diagnosis of the patient, what diagnosis he or she has, and accordingly you have to prescribe the medication. The question that probably you raised relates to the dosing effect. There are few patients, you know, whom the psychiatrists even don't have time to, you know, talk to patient and arrive at a proper diagnosis and prescribe, you know. The average time, it has been studied, you know, the average time of consultation the worldwide with the psychiatrist is just 1 minute. So mind well, psychiatrists have to have that discerning power and judgment power, you know, to arrive at a diagnosis, proper diagnosis, and write a prescription which is most suited that particular patient. But I'm sure, apart from few cases wherein there may be overdosing of drugs or medication, there may not be an appropriate combination and dosage of drugs wherein you can find dosing or oversleeping. But at the same time, there are some patients who have insomnia because of medication. So it has to be a very meticulous and a very proper, you know, prescription for each and every patient.
I could just add to that I heard a discussion recently about the question of when someone is mentally ill, can we, well, the nub of the discussion was that it's essential for them to have professional help and advice, because to think that it can just be sorted out, you know, through meditation, actually meditation for some conditions is really contraindicated. That is, it can make the condition worse. And this is really quite an important aspect too, isn't it? Next question, thank you.
Om Shanti. It's question for Sunita Bahan. What I understand, lot of sprays are used, chemicals, you know, to protect food when growing, you know, especially like apples or chikus. For many, many years, I have been peeling them so that those chemicals are gone off, so that I eat only inner bit. But now your advice, thanks.
Most of these sprays can be washed if the fruit is washed in running water. Most of these sprays go away. It's not, I mean, they don't stay. Yeah, and if the quantity is too much, then they have penetrated, then even if you peel is not going to help. But if you are going to if you wash it in running water, soak it for some time and wash it in running water is much more than sufficient to wash away all the most of these sprays that are being used for pests. Okay?
Thank you.
Mi pregunta era parecida a la que acaba de hacer la hermana, ¿no? Eso de las frutas. pero bueno, aprovecharé también para hacer otra pregunta que es referente a la leche. La leche, muchos médicos están de acuerdo en que se tome la leche, porque la leche tiene mucho calcio, porque es bueno para los huesos, mientras que hay otros médicos que dicen que la leche no se debe de tomar después de que se pasa a una edad de la infancia, ¿no? Porque dice que se termina una enzima que hay y uno no puede digerir bien la leche. Y entonces yo quisiera que me aclarara, porque como dicen que la leche es muy buena para la osteoporosis sobre todo, y para ver realmente, y si esa leche se puede, en vez de la leche, tomar la leche de soja, que dicen que también es muy buena. Esa es mi pregunta.
Okay. The question is that milk is said to be very good, and that there is the calcium, but what is all her question really was about the benefit of taking milk or not taking milk.
Okay.
Translate for her. Now you translate for her.
Actually, it is all right to take milk, but many of us have problem digesting milk. Sometimes, there is lactose intolerance, that is the milk carbohydrate that is in milk cannot be digested we don't have the enzyme after the age of 5 to digest that milk. So we can, if we don't want to take milk, to avoid taking milk, we can take soya milk or groundnut milk that can be taken in place of the normal milk, and even tofu can be used in place of the cheese that is being used. So that is the alternative for milk, and that's.
Is yogurt more digestible than ordinary milk?
Yogurt is much more digestible as compared to, because it is already pre-digested. It's a pre-digested food. But even if somebody doesn't want to take the milk, they can even prepare yogurt from soya milk.
Om Shanti. I think the panelists have covered it very nicely, and so it's not a question, but it's a comment from personal experience. And especially it's about leftover foods, frozen foods, and things like that. And living in the Western world, of course, we don't have that facility where you can have leftover foods and pass it on to others so that it can be eaten and not thrown away. But if it is cooked with the right consciousness, you won't have too much food left over. And the practice of offering bhog, and most of the BKs here do offer bhog, and so we try not to cook too much so that there will be left over for 2 more days to continue eating it. Occasionally it can happen, but not always. So Dadi Janki has drilled into us, most of us, to offer bhog to Baba daily, so we do prepare fresh foods. And for those who work, because I also work part-time, not always, and I also have to start my day early, stand on my feet all day long, 9 hours, 9.5 to 10 hours, and come home. And still I manage to have breakfast and dinner and a quick sandwich or something cooked in the right time. And so that is possible with the right nutrients. And as regards frozen foods losing their values, frozen food meal will be only once a day if there has been a necessity. But most of the people in the Western world have breakfast cereals
Cereals and
and it has got more nutrients than they require for the whole day.
Yes.
We have done this in our weight management, and we are supposed to say have 100 grams of it, and people who normally have a big bowl full, it is more than a day's requirement. So all these are fortified, and so they have all their nutrients, so there is nothing lacking.
Cereal and milk is a good combination early in the morning, but you can't have all the nutrients for the day in one meal. You should not rather have the entire day's nutrient just in one meal. That is why the day has been divided. I mean, we need to take 3 meals because we need to distribute the nutrients properly throughout the day. If we have had too many nutrients, too many calories in one meal, then they are not going to be utilized throughout the day. They will be stored rather than being utilized. So breaking up the entire day's needs into 3 main meals, 3 meals is really a good practice.
Just one comment to help the fast life in the foreign world is that like balanced meals, morning meals can be porridge with vegetables and things which is quite nutritious, or dates and dry fruit in it. This is just an example. And if you are making a sandwich for lunch with lots of vegetables in it, and the evening meal, which could be a frozen meal, which you might have to take it out on occasions, but with lots of salads. And that's quite balanced. And quite often, it's very easy to, because most of us have all the modern facilities, and we have timer ovens. And to make everything in a dish and put it in the oven, put the timer on, and when you come home, a hot meal is ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Om Shanti. People today say that all the soybean products are genetically changed, and this theme is very much discussed in the world today, and that all those products are very harmful. Is it really like this, and how to behave for BKs?
Thank you. So that was a question about soya beans being genetically altered, and is that harmful? And someone also wanted to know about microwaving. So Sunita Ben.
Actually, most everything is genetically, altered. I don't think only, soya beans are. So, but I don't think they are going to be very harmful. And basically, whenever any hybrid or new product is made, genetic changes are made, it is normally to improve the quality of the product rather than to, destroy the basic qualities. So, and maybe I have not read this research which says that it is harmful. But as far as my knowledge goes, it says they are not harmful. Okay? Microwaving. Okay. There was a time when there was a lot of craze about microwaving things, but it has been proved after a lot of research that microwaving really destroys plenty of useful nutrients because it is dry kind of cooking, and in that most of the important nutrients, the minerals and the vitamins which are helpful for the digestion of the food are destroyed. So it is better to use microwave ovens. Heating also to a very limited extent is good because they destroy it very fast. Microwaves really destroy the nutrients very fast.
Yes, Dr. Patel.
See, to my surprise, no one has asked questions about exercise or walking, but I got a feeler from Dadi Cottage. We at the hospital would like to help brothers and sisters in 2 ways. One, we could, if you wish, we could organize exercise classes either after morning class or before morning class. It can be done. The other thing which available is during your stay in Madhuban, if some of you would like to have some particular question, or maybe you want to organize your health checking here, we can even help that. So one of the things which is of concern is, like the question was asked about consumption of milk. Milk is a very rich source of calcium, And all of us in our growing years require a lot of calcium, particularly women. So it is important that we should know that if we have sufficient calcium, because otherwise the bones become quite fragile. So we could even organize something like, they call it bone density checkup, or something like that can be organized. If it is agreed upon, we can have some kind of a program for that also.
That's a wonderful couple of offers, thank you. Dr. Nikhil, any last word on this one, or of the overall session? Balance seems to be such an important word, doesn't it?
I appreciate you have organized such a good panel discussion, and most of the faces are very cheerful, very attractive, and all of them look to be in angelic stage. And I just wish and hope that you maintain good health, not only in Madhuban, even after you go back to your homes in your countries, you maintain the same good physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. So wish you all the best, and thank you very much for calling us.
Thank you all.